When C.K. Little opened his doors in downtown Corinth nearly 80 years ago, his plan was simple: deliver excellent service and exceed expectations. That's why we say a little gift goes a long way.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 10.
All smiles because it is finally approaching our Friday forecast. Welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 10. I'm meteorologist Gabe Maynor, live here from the Room to Room Weather Center per usual, and tracking a fantastic end to our work week. As we take a look at the headlines tonight, storms back by Sunday, kind of highlighting our broadcast, but fortunately we do have a good Friday. We have a good Saturday before those storms do kick in by Sunday. But the Frosty Friday ahead also highlights the top of our broadcast because that's our next concern. Because unfortunately, heading out the door tomorrow morning, we could be seeing some frost on that windshield. But the more significant drop is on the way. We're taking a look at temperatures for tonight, for tomorrow, and even into the next 7 days as we see those cold temperatures return. And glorious winter tries to make its mark here on North Mississippi with those temperatures. The first 11 p.m., 43 degrees. We're 40 there by 2 a.m. and heading out the door, you're seeing that correctly, upper 30s. Everybody, I want you to know we were in the mid 80s less than 48 hours ago. So shows the Mississippi forecast and shows that things are always a-changing here in the Magnolia State. But speaking of the Magnolia State, we are under that severe weather risk once again getting into our Sunday. And as you can see, a large part of North Mississippi, basically along the Natchez Trace and further up there towards the north and west, under that level 2 threat. Still a lot of questions heading into Sunday, ironing out some more questions on that timing here in just a moment. But I think impacts are going to be something to pay attention to here as we get into that extended forecast. And of course, you'll get that information first and accurate information here on Mississippi Live Weather. Mama Justice Doppler radar staying dry right now, so no severe weather worry tonight, but it is going to be the temperatures. And you see already 44 in New Albany, 41 in Oxford, 48 Eupora, 48 around Belzona, and 39 in Iuka. Folks in Tishomingo County, crank that heat if you haven't already, because we're only going down from here, and we're talking temperature-wise. You can see that nearly 20-degree swing from this time yesterday as a result of that cold front that brought those storms yesterday, but now we're enjoying the effects of the colder weather. So that front still leaving its mark on us here in North Mississippi, but we are looking at our high pressure center kind of driving that forecast moving forward. Now these winds are starting to shift to more of a southerly direction, and what that means is it's going to try to get some of that warmer air back by the start of the weekend, but that moisture, as it tries to move back, going to be driven further towards the south due to this system up here towards Minneapolis and Des Moines, that working its way south as we get into that extended pattern. So we're staying on the broad view here real quick because there's really not anything to know with us here in North Mississippi, but we do need to know what's happening on the broader view to know what's happening in our weather pattern. So high pressure keeps us dry for Friday. We'll continue to linger in our pattern towards Friday morning and even by Friday afternoon. But since we are on the west side of that high pressure system, the west side of that ridging pattern, well, that's lifting some of that moisture back into North Mississippi. And as this front moves in, we're not going to see rain showers, might see a cloud here and there, but overall it's going to be pushing that moisture that's trying to work its way back already, pushing it back towards the south and making it an uphill battle for those storms on Sunday. That's a good thing. That's a stabilizing factor and one that we're hoping keeps us severe weather free by the time we get into our Sunday evening. But the next 24, as good as you can get for a late winter day. 37 degrees there by 6 a.m., mid 40s by 9 a.m., into the 60s by lunch. So if you're heading out the door with layers, which I do recommend, by the time we get towards that afternoon time frame, things are looking better, probably don't need that extra layer, and you get to go outside and enjoy a sun-filled day. So if you're looking for any plans to do outside, or maybe a couple ball games to go to tomorrow night, well, you're doing the right thing. You need to be taking advantage of this forecast. But if you're unable to tomorrow, we do have a few better days ahead. We're tracking all those latest details coming up here in the next 60 seconds. We're also tracking those storms on Sunday, also tracking a frigid forecast into next week. We have a lot of details to cover, and we will touch on all of those coming up here on Mississippi Live Weather at 10 in the next 60 seconds.
I have been going to Tupelo Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Tupelo Smiles.
Look at Wanda, ready to rock her big presentation. But first, lunch. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Delicious, celebratory, but is it quick? The Cobb salad. Tender oven-roasted chicken, topped with cheese. Prepared, plated, and served? In 6 minutes? Is this for real? Well, of course. Well done, Wanda. Sweet Pepper's Deli. Yes, ma'am. Life is sweet.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's meteorologist Gabe Maynor.
Storms possible by Sunday, and some of those storms potentially on the stronger side. That's what we're looking at in the extended pattern, but there is still some ingredients that we're doubting when we're talking about this severe weather setup, and that's a good thing this far out. We want there to be questions because that lowers our confidence on the severe weather actually happening, so we're ironing this out here at 10 o'clock tonight, but of course doing this over the next several days as well. What we're looking at in that extended forecast as well is the temperatures. I told you it'd be cold. But look at how cold we're talking about. This is not the coldest day next week. We're 33 Oxford, New Albany on your Monday morning, 37 Golden Triangle, 35 Cleveland, and right at freezing Tunica, South Haven, 31 Senatobia. Yeah, cold. It's still winter technically all the way up until the next couple of weeks, so no shock at all, and we are already getting a taste of that cold air heading into our Friday morning. In the upper 30s by 3 a.m., mid-30s there by 6 a.m. with clear skies overnight. Honestly, that's aiding this cold air, but we do expect those temperatures to drop even more as that next front moves in by the weekend. So expanding things out here, you can see that we are dry as can be, and we are not worried about any chance of showers overnight. So let's go ahead and zoom things out and we can see reason why. Well, high pressure is actually still driving our forecast even out here all the way into the Atlantic coast. But what we're starting to get, you see these winds, how they're kind of moving in there from the Atlantic over into the Gulf and then kind of wrapping around there into North Mississippi. This is that dominant ridging pattern that we're in. So we've enjoyed the northern winds for the past couple of days, or I guess past day. But as we head into that extended pattern, those southerly winds kick back in, and we'll see the effects of that here in just a moment. Low temperatures were 37 in Bruce, Houston, and Tupelo, 37 Starkville, 36 Macon and Columbus, and then 40s Belzona and Greenwood. So it is going to be a cool start tomorrow morning. Make sure to grab those layers and find ways to stay warm. And if you've not done so already, dust off that heater. You need to get it back going tonight. We're 35 for that wind chill in South Haven, 34 in New Albany, 37 in Houston, and 38 in Greenwood. So those calmed, maybe 5-mile-an-hour winds, they're going to drop us a few degrees, unfortunately. And if the kids are waking up early, it is the last day of spring break. Let them sleep in a little bit, not only so they can get a little bit more rest, and so you can get a little bit more rest, but also for the fact that it's going to be warmer the later that they wake up. So unless you want to wake up to 38 degrees tomorrow morning, sleep in, enjoy 57 by noon, 67 there by the afternoon. Either way, should be a great time once we get towards the afternoon and some of that warmer air kicks in. Again, we're keeping it on the broad view real quick because I do want to show you what's moving into our atmosphere. So we just talked about the southerly winds. That's bringing back some of this Gulf moisture, and that Gulf moisture, of course, has moisture, but it also has a little bit of that warmer air. And so that's going to work to replenish some of those temperatures by the afternoon, warming them up and making it feel a little bit similar to what it did past couple of weeks. But we do have this cold front that's moving into North Mississippi, and what that's going to do is not bring us any rain chances or any cloud cover, but it is going to push that moisture further south and making it that much more of an uphill battle into Sunday. And we'll look at that timing here in just a moment. We're 67 for Tunica and South Haven Friday afternoon, 70 showing up Houston, Bruce, and Starkville, even down around parts of Kosciuszko. So as that day continues on and we get into that nighttime forecast, it is going to be a great time to head out to any of these ball games, because we see abundant sunshine, and when that sun does set, we're going to be enjoying a clear sky overnight. That's going to be perfect for baseball, perfect for any plans that you may have. 63 degrees by that first pitch, dropping to the low 50s towards the final out. Means it is going to be a little bit cooler by the end of the game. Have that jacket on standby, because if you don't need it at the start, probably going to need it as we wrap things up. So as this cold front moves over North Mississippi overnight and into our Saturday morning, again, driving that moisture further towards the south. It's not completely shifting our weather pattern, but that's just basically making it a little bit harder for that moisture to return Saturday and for the start of Sunday. That's a good thing. Again, a limiting factor when we're talking about those storm chances, and honestly, wish it would go a little bit more to the south and drive some of that moisture further south as well. But unfortunately, kind of sticking around that Tennessee state line before lifting up there towards the northeast, meaning that we're only going to see a brief setback as that moisture tries to make a major comeback. We're 44 Oxford and Holly Springs, 43 Columbus and Vernon, Alabama, 44 Iuka, but 47 showing up Greenwood, Belzona, and Greenville for the start of our Saturday. We are getting a little bit more of those breezy conditions due to those southerly winds, dropping it again a degree or two by the time we get towards that Saturday morning. So waking up early, coming at a cost. That's all the more reason to sleep in as we wrap up our spring break this week, but enjoy those last couple of days. We're going to be enjoying a good forecast for the time being. Saturday morning stays on the drier side. Southerly winds, like I said, not really shifting. It's going to continue to build in that Gulf moisture and getting a little bit of those hazy conditions from the Gulf. It's going to be that thin layer of cloud cover way high up in the atmosphere, meaning no rainfall is attached to it, meaning that sunshine still gets to get through. So by Saturday afternoon, again, another beautiful day we can take advantage of to get outside and enjoy these perfect conditions. Taking a look though, we do see some of that cloud cover starting to build in as that next weather maker moves into town, and we'll look at that here in just a moment for that Sunday storm potential. High temperatures Saturday getting even warmer than they were on Friday. We're 76 Houston, 77 Grenada, 76 Greenwood, Water Valley, and 75 in Oxford. Now we are still about 10 degrees away from the record, but we are above that normal for sure, and taking in as much of that spring-like air as we can in advance of the spring season. And I know the plants are as well, but heading into next week, I mentioned plants for a reason because I'm hoping you didn't plant any. We're 36 Monday, guys, we're 26 by Tuesday. Whew, I thought winter was over. I was praying it was, at least, and unfortunately it is not. It's still making its impacts early next week, but by the time we get towards midweek and beyond, the milder air does return as some more of those rain chances build in by the latter part of next week. High temperatures follow suit. You can kind of see this increase before we go on that downhill descent. The roller coaster gets over the hill, and we're going to be plummeting Monday afternoon. Only 47 degrees for those highs, 49 Tuesday, but back into the 70s by Thursday. So that's the good thing, is winter is not exactly leaving a long-lasting mark, kind of working its way into the area and then clearing on out just as fast as it came. Sunday morning, we're staying on the drier side. I do want to point that out. Sunday should have a good portion of the day with those beautiful conditions, but the cloud cover sticks around. Some of those light showers do try to work into the region. That's that unstable air, that moisture trying to push back into North Mississippi, and it's going to be a significant uphill battle, but not at all impossible to get some of that just-in-time moisture. As we take a look out there towards the west, there's your rain chances already starting to move in towards Arkansas. And that's what we're paying attention to with this time frame and with the amount of unstable air. So if we're getting these southerly winds, dew points potentially getting into the low to mid 60s, we do have enough of those upper level wind support to allow some of these storms to potentially get on the stronger side. So as they start to build in right along the Mississippi River, you can see some of these reds that are showing up. That's indicative of some heavy rainfall, but also potentially resulting in some of those rotating storms or some of those stronger storms producing those stronger winds and some of those potential severe winds as well. One thing I do want to note though, gradient winds, like we talked about at 6, that's also a concern with this. So you can see how tight that gradient is where we're shifting from a southerly wind to that northwesterly wind. And that's where that cold air is coming from, but you can just see how sharp that change is. That means we're in a very tight gradient, meaning those winds get even stronger and potentially could result in some damaging winds here at the surface. 11 p.m., getting that leading edge, pushing more into North Mississippi, before gradually working its way into northwest Alabama by 1 a.m. and carrying over into Monday morning. So as we get into our Monday morning, that's where we also could see, Matt talked about it, a few flurries moving into the North Mississippi area. I still need to see some things before we can exactly talk more about that, but it's not an impossibility, but it's not a possibility just yet. We're kind of on that gray line right now. But nonetheless, what you need to know is that potential for a few storms working our way into Sunday and some of those storms trying to get on the stronger side. And the Storm Prediction Center already has us in that level 2 threat. And I think that's going to be something that will really have some changes as we get over the last couple of days. So we'll pay attention to that. And our meteorologist Maggie McCauley in the mornings will have the latest on it. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon and I will be monitoring it. And our meteorologist Caleb Edelblut will be monitoring that as well through your weekend. One thing we do know is temperatures do become more mild as the weekend goes on, but that significant drop early Monday morning is something of note. And I do hang on, I'll answer that question here in a second, Rocky. But I do want to make note that if you have planted this year, I know some of us got a little bit excited, understandably so. We were ready at the Maynard household too. But if you did, then you need to have something to cover those plants moving into Monday, into Tuesday to keep those warm, even into Wednesday with temperatures close to freezing. So beyond that, we are warming up and hopefully that's here to stay, but we're in Mississippi. Things are always changing. Okay, Easter weather and blackberry winter. Okay, well, that's something we can keep in the vocabulary box for sure. Calling these last cold snaps. That's what Wanda's mentioning there in the chat. So I like that. I'm going to start incorporating that a little bit. Blackberry winter, I like that. Easter weather. Honestly, I hope it's not this cold on Easter. I kind of like where, Easter, it's kind of showing new life, with Jesus raising from the dead, but also because it's got the spring-like feel. You got the flowers, you got the pastels. Love it. Great time. My wife's favorite holiday, by the way. Rocky, wondering why other counties listed on your map but Pontotoc. Let me look at that real quick. So whenever we're talking about some of the counties, of course, we can't fit them all because we do have, it'll just become a word jumble and you won't be able to see anything on the map. But whenever you zoom into specific areas, take Panola County. There's Batesville, there's Sardis that show up. And whenever we're talking about Pontotoc specifically, Ecru, Pontotoc, even get Algoma mixed in there. So, if we highlight specific areas, and of course those towns do pop up, but it requires a zoom in, requires a zoom out. And so we kind of just, populate based off of population whenever we're talking about the general consensus of that general area. Again, we don't want it to be wordy on there, so that way you can still see what's happening. And I guess that's also trusting some spots to know where you're at, know where you live. But if it is anything that we need to worry about specifically for your city or your community, we'll be zoomed in enough to where you can see that for yourself. So, of course, we love everyone in North Mississippi. We care about each community and we want everyone to stay safe. And I promise Pontotoc, I promise everyone that is maybe not seen on the broader scale. Here, let's take this for example. Well, if we zoom things out, you can see that only Tupelo shows up. So it's like, you can't have word jumble because if we put every city on the map right here, you would not see a thing. So we have to kind of filter that as we move in, zoom out. So that's the only note. It has nothing to do with cities we like more or less. It specifically, I believe, has to do with population. So I'll check with Matt on that specifically because he did help code this, but that is what I believe, and that's what, is kind of the general consensus. So as we get going, hang on. Is there a possibility these storms fizzle a bit as they push forward later in the night? So the later in the night they go, of course, that does kind of limit that daytime heating, but we're also seeing a sharp temperature gradient as well. So if we advance it forward, you can kind of see how earlier on when these storms are in Arkansas, they pack a little bit of a punch. This is going to be the peak heating of the afternoon, still soaking up some of that unstable air. But as we push more into 9, 10, 11 o'clock, those don't look nearly as pungent there. And so I'm hopeful that this will fizzle out like you're saying. I'm not overly sold on this event. I don't think there's a ton of unstable air this can take advantage of. I think this has a little bit more of that upper level wind support to where it could potentially produce some of those strong storms. But I need to see that energy, that fuel get back in here before we get further into the forecast. We're still 4 days out or 3 days out at this point. So heading into tomorrow, heading into Saturday, we'll have more of an idea on that, but we at least know there's some potential. So we're going to talk about it so that way you guys can know how to stay safe. So that's kind of where things stand right now. I do hope that you guys are staying safe. It was an active pattern this week, and so that safety plan should already be in place. But if it's not, make sure to get those layers of protection ready because, of course, severe weather is a pretty prominent thing here this time of year. So download that Mississippi Live weather app today, iOS and Android. The QR code's there on your screen to download the latest and greatest version of our weather app today. And you can also tune in msliveweather.com for the very latest on that forecast ahead. Our next broadcast with our meteorologist Maggie McCauley at 6:37 and 7:30. Going to be a good time there in the morning, but I'm sure everyone will be layered up with a hot cup of coffee. I went to the iced coffee here recently. I guess I got to swap back now. So I recommend you to do the same. And as we look at, I see, hang on, what is that? Kira talking about getting up early at 4 something. Well, 2.5 hours later, there's Maggie at 6:30. So you already be up and at 'em. Might as well turn on the app to tune in. As you take a look at the extended schedule, though, 5, 6, and 10 with Chief Meteorologist Matt Laupon and I, we'll be live at our Game of the Week in Booneville. So all the more reason to tune in, mix in a little bit of sports for this beautiful sunny Friday ahead. We love this little edition that we get to enjoy on Fridays, so we hope that you join us there. 5, 6, and highlights at 10. You guys have a fantastic Friday. Bundle up tomorrow morning and stay weather aware as we get through the weekend.
What I thought was a complete life was nowhere near complete, but it is now.
Learn about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org.
Even though Gabe grew up in Alabama, Mississippi has now become his home and his family. And one thing about Gabe is he keeps his family safe.